Good afternoon, and welcome to the Spirit Awards. First of all, I just want to say thank you to IFP West for asking me to MC this, because I started, as you know, with a small film called Hollywood Shuffle with the Samuel Goldwyn Company and a credit card that I charged to the max. Today I'm really excited because there were a lot of great films last year. A lot of films that were made with a lot of courage. Robert Rodriguez made a film for $7,000. Incredible. Incredible. A lot of great films last year. Robert Altman's Shortcuts. One of my favorite actors turned director and came out with an incredible film, Mr. John Turturro with Mac. But I think my favorite film last year had to be Much Ado About Nothing. And I don't know, it's just, you know, the film made me laugh. It was some incredible acting. And it inspired me because my next film, the next film that I'm working on, is Julius Caesar. No, I'm going to do Julius Caesar, and I'm going to do it with, well, if this afternoon, I mean, if you'd like to see a few scenes from it, I could do a few scenes from my new film if you guys like to see it. Here's a few scenes from Julius Caesar, as done by the all-black and Hispanic Shakespearean Company. The Ides of March are here. And I pray that Caesar may live to see another day. Oh, those treacherous traitors that have tried to kill my Lord Caesar, I pray that he... Hark, who goes there? Who goes there? It be I, my lord, it be I. Put that sword away before you hurt somebody. And it ain't gonna be me. I pray you, what news of Caesar? What news of Caesar? That's what I came to tell you, my lord. They killed but Caesar downtown. They took his Walkman and everything. He was just walking down the street with his mind on his money and his money on his mind. Laid back. Come, let us go to Rome, and I shall speak to the citizens of Rome. Come, let us go to Rome. Hail thee but a chariot. Yo, chariot! 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 I see your ass in Rome, punk. Mark Anthony, 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 Mark Anthony. Who needs tickets? 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 Mark Anthony! Citizens of Rome! Rome, 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 Rome. I come not to bury Caesar, but to praise him. For Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. I speak not to disprove. Brutus and the Killers, Brutus and the Killers, Brutus and the Killers. Ladies and gentlemen, that #1 group that's been rocking Rome. Brutus and the Killers! What up? Ladies and gentlemen, the Killers. killed Caesar. He got in my way. Stabbed him in the back, in the back, in the back. What could I say? Power, control of Rome would be mine. That's all the time we have. Coming to a theater near you soon. It was a joke. Somebody's like, he's really going to do that? Who's distributing it? Has Miramax got that? Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear Townsend was doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who created Much to Do About Nothing to present the first award, Mr. Kenneth Branagh.
Thank you very much. Very nice indeed to be here. I'm very honored. As an independent, without a major studio's financial help or guarantee of distribution, there is no greater task in filmmaking, I think, than the initiation of your first feature film. It requires extraordinary patience and perseverance, stamina for rejection, and most importantly, an enduring love and commitment to your chosen story. The nominations for the best first feature film are American Heart, director Martin Bell. Combination Platter, director Tony Chan. El Mariachi, director Robert Rodriguez. Mac, director John Turturro. And Menace to Society, directors Albert and Alan Hughes. And the winner is El Mariachi.
Tócala. Toca algo dulce. Tócala. Canta.
God, I would have prepared a speech had I thought you would give this to me. Now you're going to pay. Oh, man, I feel really almost embarrassed to even be up here because I tried to bury this movie when it first was suggested to be put in theaters. In fact, wow, this is such an odd moment. I guess it's only appropriate, this being independent awards, that I think of all people, a Hollywood studio, Columbia Pictures, because if it wasn't for them, you never would have seen it. Because when they first bought my tape, I didn't even have a film print. They bought it off of VHS tape. They said, instead of remaking it, which is why they bought it, we didn't like it the way it is. Why don't we put it in some theaters and see if people would like it? I said, no, not this one. If I known people were going to see it, I would have done so many things different. I mean, in fact, if you're going to go to all the expense of making a film print and blowing it up and advertising it, let me reshoot some of it. I mean, just knowing people will see it, I'd change some things. I would give me a week and $2,000, I'll reshoot half of it. They didn't even. They said, no, we don't want to spend the money. We'll see how it plays like this, and then if people want to change the ending or whatever, then we'll maybe let you go reshoot some. They don't like this speech very much. They're falling down at the tables. They decided to put it out like that. People enjoyed it and ended up being the first movie released by a major studio in Spanish and shot independently like that. So it's a great inspiration for the IFP to give an award like this to an aspiring filmmaker like myself, because it's good for other aspiring filmmakers who right about now are about to hit their grandparents up for a couple $100,000 to make the breakout film. Maybe they'll rethink that and say, you know what, it really isn't the wallet that makes the movie. It's your creativity, your passion, your hard work. And, well, you guys know that already. But, money sometimes kills creativity, and anybody can tap themselves out financially making a movie. That's not the idea. It's to tap yourselves out creatively first. And you've inspired me to go on in a town that is usually very uninspiring tonight. You have inspired, and I thank you for that. And thanks. One last thing to my beautiful, wonderful, sweet, loving wife, Elizabeth. You know this really belongs to you, and I'll hand it over as soon as I get back to the table. Oh, if you're wondering what I'm going to do now that I have probably about $7 million budget on my next movie, well, the idea is to stay creative and hard, so I'm going to shoot the movie for $7,000, give the rest to charity, because the studio will never know the difference anyway.
Now please welcome James LeGros and Laura San Giacomo.
Writers are the storytellers of our time. They give us a mirror of our lives.
Screenplays are stories written for a cinematic medium, sometimes adapted from literature, news, or inspired by our own memories and life experiences. For Best Screenplay, the nominees are Robert Altman and Frank Barhydt, Shortcuts. Edwin Baker and Tony Chan, Combination Platter. Ang Lee, Neil Peng, and James Seamus, The Wedding Banquet. Victor Nunez, Ruby in Paradise. Nancy Savoca and Richard Guay, Household Saints.
And the winner is...
I'm so excited.
Robert Altman and Frank Barhydt, Shortcuts.
And Frand's going to put this on.
Would you take my phone number?
Well, you never know when you might need the services of the plan.
You have children?
No, ma'am. I can use some cheering up from time to time myself, ma'am. Being a cop isn't easy. You have a nice day now.
Thank you. Congratulations. On behalf of the other guy who worked on this with me, who isn't here tonight, we thank you. And I would like to thank him, especially Robert Altman, for choosing me, allowing me to work on this. I'd like to thank the late Raymond Carver, whose stories we used. I would like to thank all of the cast who sort of glorified this and made it come to life. I'd like to thank Carrie Brokaw, Scott Bushnell, Ira Deutschman at Fine Line, and finally Tess Gallagher, who was Carver's widow and was very, very helpful to us in this collaboration. Thank you very much.
Debbie Mazur and Bill Paxton.
A great cinematographer can use the most elusive medium, light, to create the most specific moods and emotions.
It's great to be here today to honor and celebrate the best in independent filmmaking. It's my pleasure to co-present the award for this year's Best Cinematography, and the nominees are
James R. Bagdanis, American Heart.
Elliot Davis, Equinox.
Lisa Rinzler, Menace to Society.
Nancy Schreiber, Chain of Desire.
Alex Vlachos, Ruby in Paradise.
And the winner is...
If I can get this open. Lisa Rinzler, Menace to Society. Lisa Rinzler's in London shooting a documentary, so we accept this award on her behalf.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of production at the Samuel Goldwyn Company and IFP West board member, Mr. Tom Rothman.
Thank you. Brian Greenbrown had already produced Metropolitan and Poison when he died at 30 of AIDS. In his memory, the IFP honors such hands-on producers while paying homage to the members of the independent filmmaking community who have been lost to AIDS. The Brian Greenbrown Award is given to an outstanding producer who, despite limited resources, which probably applies to most people, helped create a body of distinctive independent feature films. This year, the award is going plural in a big way. James Schamus and Ted Hope, the dual carbonated engine that drives Good Machine Production Company, are responsible for an almost overwhelming array of against-the-odds movies, either separately or together, sometimes as producer, executive producer, sales rep, writer, distributor, cheerleader, chief cook, and bottle washer. They have been connected with many of the most daring and difficult independent films of the 90s. To catalog all their various achievements or list all their Golden Globes, Golden Bears, Golden Horses, Golden Asses, I don't know, would take longer than even this program, as you may suspect, already the longest lunch in Hollywood, could bear. Suffice it to say that among the over 20 films which have benefited from their unique brand of can-doism are numbered: The Wedding Banquet, The Hours and Times, Clean Shaven, River of Grass, Unbelievable Truth, Trust, Simple Men, What Happened Was, Swoon, Thank You and Good Night, In the Soup, and the forthcoming Safe, Amateur, and Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. Even more telling is the list of directors whose first or early films they have fought for, believed in, and gotten made. Ang Lee, Hal Hartley, Tom Noonan, Tom Kalin, Jill Godmill, Todd Haynes, Alex Rockwell, Claire Denis, and others still. It is this kind of unwavering support for unconventional filmmakers that eventually makes possible the truly great directing careers like today's Cassavetes winner. I like to think that an award to Ted and James is for everybody sitting with Bob Uecker way in the back. These two guys are living proof that if you want to, you can get here from there. It doesn't take a ton of money or a three-picture deal. It takes the rare qualities that they both possess in abundance: taste, honesty, integrity, energy, talent, tenacity, and defiance. I think defiance above all. They never make the easy ones, and they never quit. They know that people don't care how much a movie costs, they care how it makes them feel. Imagine, after hustling for years to make a seemingly unpitchable half-English, half-Taiwanese, half-straight, half-gay movie with an unknown director, how sweet it must be to open Variety one day and read the article showing that on a percentage basis, Jurassic Park was actually only the second most commercially successful film in the world in 1993. The banner headline in classic Variety metaphor announced the first: Banquet eats Dino's lunch. Defiance. So on behalf of the board of directors of the IFP, and James, without having resorted to a single bow tie joke, it is a pleasure to present this year's Brian Greenbrown Producing Award to the WWF Tag Team Champions of Lower Manhattan, the good guys from Good Machine, Ted, Hope Springs Eternal, and Professor James Schamus.
I'm thrilled that the IFP chose to honor James and I for our producing efforts. I know it's really just semantics, but in the films that James and I have done together, whether together or apart, it wasn't us who really produced these films. It's been the support and sacrifices of the cast and crew and the community around us who have made the movies. Independent has meant the exact opposite of being alone or separate for us. It's been the openness, the willingness to share information, ideas, and criticism that have turned our projects into the films that they are. I really believe it's how you work that's more important than what you make. And I hope you can see all the fun and help we had in the films we made. Thank you.
People always ask, how do you make these films for so little money? And you must be proud you made The Wedding Banquet for $750,000. In fact, we're not that proud of that. We're proud we were able to make the film itself, but making films on such a low amount of money also means that a lot of times you do things that you're not so particularly proud of, although you're not ashamed of either, like not paying yourself or all your best friends who worked on the film. People always say I was able to make the movie because I called in all my favors. Ted and I have been calling in favors for over 3 years now. In fact, nobody owes me a favor at all. They never did. I owe them. Somehow they keep coming back. On all of our behalfs, Ted and mine and everybody at Good Machine, Anthony and Mary Jane, we just have a couple thanks. First, of course, to my mom and father and step-parents, some of whom are here today, and to the family. Also to a couple of producers who've really been guiding lights to us. Christine Vachon, first at Apparatus, and then at a number of companies that she incorporates with great regularity to make her films. I'm happy to be working for her. To Jim Stark, who taught us a lot of the tricks of the trade and continues to astonish us with his intelligence and vigor in pursuing all of our goals. And finally, to a particular producer who I first came to know as a voice over a bunch of cassettes that were mailed as letters from Berlin in the early 80s. This is before he was a producer. It was a voice on a friend of mine's who used to send these letters back from Berlin to New York. And there was always this grating, obnoxious, incredibly intelligent, wonderful, discovering voice that started to pick a fight with my best friend in New York, Casey Finch, who would get these tapes and start making more tapes back and start yelling back. And they carried on for a year without ever seeing each other. One of the most vituperative, intelligent, funny, bittersweet, hysterical romances I've ever known. I was surprised a few years later when I came to New York to find the person who owned that voice that was coming at me from Berlin over all those years. I had the great honor to share my first producing credit as an executive producer on Poison with that colleague and gentleman and astonishing, very bitchy gossip. He went on to make a lot of wonderful films. We were able to work with him on his very last film. He used to rollerblade into the Good Machine offices for meetings in shorts and a cut-off T-shirt covered with Kaposi sarcoma with a kind of wonderful up yours to the world. He basically left this world, I would say, with that kind of attitude, the most ridiculously dignified person I've ever known, ever to depart my world. And it's in his honor, it's in the honor of the man whose name actually is on this award that I accepted today. I would prefer it if there were no Brian Greenbaum Award. I wish there were a Brian Greenbaum still here. He was an award himself to all of us who knew him. And if this were the world I preferred to live in, I wouldn't be standing here, nor would Ted. We'd be sitting with Brian critiquing everybody's clothes, including mine, and wishing that there were no such thing as AIDS or any of the other afflictions that have made people like Brian and my good friend Casey, in whose memory I also accept this award, leave us. Thank you so much.
Spirit Awards. We're back. Right now, the independent film community would like to say thank you to all of the sponsors today. So, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Kodak, Panavision, and Bravo. And with us doing interviews for Bravo is Mr. Roger E. Bird. A lot of you know him.
Hi,
Say hello,
Robert. How
Roger.
are you? Good. Now, what brings you to town? What exactly are you doing with Bravo?
Well, what we're doing is kind of interesting. We are taping this event, and then it's going to be edited down into segments exactly as long as the commercial breaks on the Oscars. So that when you're watching the Academy Awards on Monday night, whenever they go to commercials, you go to Bravo, and then you watch the winners, and then we interview. I've got Robert Rodriguez right here. We interview the winners, and we show scenes from their clips, or clips from their movies, and it's a good way, I think, to draw attention to a wider audience to what's going on in the independent community. And congratulations.
Well, congratulations again, Robert Rodriguez, and we'll be looking for
This is fun talking to you, by the way, Robert. Do you have a nighttime gig? Would you like to be a movie critic, or?
I mean, Gene Siskel's spot is up.
No, Gene is actually here today, so I think
Where's
why don't
Gene
we
at?
talk privately?
Gene, I'd like to talk to you about Meteor Man. You helped it leave the theater like a meteor. Are the Hughes brothers still here? Have any drive-by equipment? No.
Hey, I think you have the idea, Robert. You got it, yeah.
No, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Ebert and Siskel. Right now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the president of IFP West, Mr. Jonathan Wax.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, the IFP is a strange bird. We kind of know what we're not, but we're not quite sure of what we are. I mean, we know we're not a trade union like the IA or a trade organization like the MPAA. And we're not a guild like the DGA or a film school like UCLA. And we're certainly not an agency like CAA or a support group like the AA. Although occasionally we do provide breakdown service like the AAA. In fact, in our effort to service our members and speak on behalf of the independent filmmaking community, we do a little of each. Last year at this event, I spoke about the need for our voice to be heard concerning the MPAA rating system and how seriously flawed it is and how badly it needs reforming. I'm happy to say that towards the end of last year, the IFP West hosted an all-day conference attended by an array of people from across the independent film spectrum, including distributors, exhibitors, filmmakers, attorneys, and representatives from the Guild. The outcome of this discussion is a hard-nosed, carefully worked-out proposal to reform the rating system. We're looking forward to circulating this document over the next few weeks to get your input in the hope that as a community, as the independent filmmaking community, we can set about correcting this objectionable form of corporate censorship. Every year I get asked by the press whether independent filmmaking is just a springboard to the major leagues, whether independent films are just a kind of rehearsal for the big thing, for the real thing. And I suppose that's true for some individual filmmakers. But the point I want to stress is that independent filmmakers are not riding second class. Independent filmmaking is a rejection of mainstream movies. It is a howl in the face of the stupefying predictability of corporate entertainment. Independent films are an alternative to the mainstream. Independent films are alternative films. We make films in a different way. We finance them differently. We produce them differently. We budget them differently. And we have a point of view which is deliberately at odds with the mainstream. And these Spirit Awards here today are not just some junior Olympics yearning to be admitted to the big show, the Oscar Olympics. What we are celebrating today is a different kind of filmmaking. Films that are deliberately provocative and eccentric, that take chances and challenge the prevailing political, cultural, and aesthetic conventions. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no illusions that the attention of the world this weekend is on the Indie Spirit Awards and not on the Oscars. I mean, after all, Steven Spielberg didn't name the main character of Schindler's List Indie Schindler or Spirit Schindler. He named him Oscar Schindler. He knew what he was doing. In the upcoming year, the IFP West will take the first steps towards the realization of a dream. As an organization, we are looking toward the creation of an independent film center. The core of the center will be a movie theater where 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we will run American independent films and films from around the world. Around the theater, we'll have the offices of the IFP and other like-minded organizations, production offices, an independent film database, perhaps even some basic production and post-production facilities. It will be a place where filmmakers can gather and share amongst their comrades, where filmmaking as a form of cultural and artistic expression will flourish and be respected. In fact, over the entrance of the Independent Filmmaking Center, under the IFP logo, there'll be a sign that will read, "Independent filmmakers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your change, your spare change." Something like that. We hope that in the months ahead we can count on your support and enthusiasm towards the realization of this dream, the Independent Film Center. Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful to see you all here again this year. Thank you for coming, and have a great time.
The Executive Director of IFP West, Dawn Hudson.
Hi, y'all. Gary Grossman said that I couldn't thank anyone because it would make this sound like a Rotary Club convention, but I'm going to risk all, and I want to thank Entertainment Weekly for sponsoring the cocktail party beforehand. They wrapped around the room. I also want to thank our incredible production team tonight. Co-producers Gary Grossman and Kathy Bornstein. Yeah, they did a great job. Through hell and high water they went to produce this. Associate producer Robert Faust and director David Galligan, and the set designer and lighting designer Russell Pyle. If the program is any shorter this year, you can thank them. It's because of their good work. I also want to give a special thanks to the chairperson of the Spirit Awards Committee and the president of IFP West, who gave up a lot of her time from Alpha Cine Labs and all of her personal life to make this event happen today. That's Kathy Main. So thank you all. None of us would be here today without the extraordinary vision and the hard work of one woman, Sandra Schulberg. In 1979, way back then, she mapped out a strategy to support and promote the American independent film movement. You could still say movement in the 70s. She spent 9 months setting up a 3-day conference, the first independent film market, and a festival of American independence, and called her creation the Independent Feature Project. She called it Project because she thought her work would be finished in a year or so. Well, it's too bad for you, Sandra, because here we are 15 years later with 7 IFP chapters nationwide, 6,000 members, and the project is far from finished. Sandra knows independent filmmaking from every angle, both in the United States and abroad. Her production credits include Alan Brista, Rêve de Singe, Northern Lights, Belazar, The Cajun, and Waiting for the Moon. She distributed Northern Lights herself, taking it from theater to theater. She helped found First Run Features, one of the first independent distribution companies, and one that's still in operation today. And as Senior Vice President of American Playhouse, she has significantly expanded its reach beyond the United States. She's one of the people who early on was instrumental in increasing foreign co-financing for American independence. People don't know you so well here, Sandra, in Los Angeles, so I think after today you're going to be getting a lot of phone calls. She also created the American Playhouse Abroad to secure foreign financing for the company's films. But her great gift was seeing that the fragmented independent film movement could become stronger if filmmakers had a means of talking to each other and a means of sharing information. So it is my pleasure and honor to present a Special Spirit Award to the founder of Independent Feature Project, Sandra Schulberg.
Feel a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. Probably look like a wizard in this hat, too. It's a little disconcerting to have the curtain pulled back. I'm afraid you're all going to discover that there isn't some great inspiring figure behind the curtain, but just a lowly lever puller. And I want to first of all say that the focus on me that Don so flatteringly insisted on is not accurate, of course. I was a catalyst, but I was a catalyst for the energies of people in this room and, of course, far beyond this room. And there is someone here today who was particularly critical to the founding of the Independent Feature Project, and that's Miles Mogilescu, who was then program director of the Film Fund, who saw the kernel of value in this first proposal that Steve Wax and I wrote, and encouraged us, helped shape it, and eventually made a home for the Independent Feature Project at the Film Fund in New York. When I was asked to come and receive this award and give people some of the background of the IFP, I unpacked the archives, which I hadn't looked at in 15 years. And I did find a few treasures, like, for instance, the one-page proposal for the first Los Angeles office of the IFP, with a budget that amounts to less than, I think, 5 lunch tables here, and which very humbly proposed that the National Board, which we had at that time, be able to veto the selection of the first paid staff person. Of course, after the first LA seminar, which was brilliantly organized by the inimitable Greg Nava, Anna Thomas, Steve Wax, who was part of it, Barbara Bloom, Ed Landler, Victoria Wozniak, David Morris, and probably many others of you who are here, that humility went out the window, and after that it was, excuse me, but fuck New York, and we'll be fine on our own. And as a result of that determination and independence, as Dawn said, there are now autonomous IFPs around the country. The IFP was started by a band of outsiders, and we were arrogant, I think, in our protest. There was an element of moral superiority, and now that we're 15 years old, some of us a bit older than that, in fact, I think in our maturity we can sort of face the hard questions. I spend part of every year in Europe, and I can tell you that American culture is inexorably marching its way across the world. And I feel that we have a responsibility as independents, knowing that films do open people's hearts and minds, to really ask ourselves what we're opening those hearts and minds to. I think that audiences need entertainment that's nourishing, that's devoid of toxins, that leaves you inspired and strong, and above all, clear-headed, so that we can face the challenges of this increasingly complicated world with increasingly fewer resources, and so that we can help bring about a peaceful collaboration among all the peoples and also the animals of the planet. If we could redefine independent in this, as the millennium approaches, to mean that, then I would be very proud to continue calling myself an independent. Thank you very much.
Civic. I get tired of cooking dinner twice.
I'm gonna take my truck to the shop, Mom.
Your truck? Again?
It's my clutch. My clutch is all mushy. Remember, I told you about it.
What about it?
The lining for the clutch. Brett's gonna do the work for me. I only need $50 for the parts.
$50? I gave you $50 for your truck last month.
I told you about it, Mom. You said okay.
I didn't say okay.
You didn't say okay. She said okay. What are we doing here? Sitting in Parliament? Swell. Forget the clutch. Forget you promised me. I'll just strip my gears and scrap my 4x4.
Hey, hold on.
I gotta go.
Jeff, you know what it takes to run that truck of yours? Do you have any idea what a teenager's insurance costs?
Do you know what a promise is?
What promise?
Mom promised me she'd advance me $50.
You know, she's unpromising.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. It wasn't a promise.
Forget the truth. Why bother with the truth?
Where'd that word come from?
Exactly! What truth got to do with it? Truth has no meaning in this house. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at her.
Lower your voice, Jeff. Act like a human being.
That's right. I'm an animal. Well, this animal tells the truth.
All right. Apologize to your mother, and then you apologize to me.
I will not. You're both liars.
You watch what you're saying.
Glad to. You're both very fucking liars. Go on. Hit the animal. Hit the animal. For God's sake!
Go to school, Jeff. Here's $40. That's all I have until I get to the bank. I'll leave 10 with Mrs. Valdez and the principal's.
I think I got 10.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay,
No.
Dad. It's okay, Dad.
Can't go around with a busted clutch. Have an accident.
Here's your lunch.
The director of Little Nikita, Richard Benjamin.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here in this room with so many creative and talented people. I thought that I had discovered River Phoenix. I also thought when I was a kid I discovered James Dean and Marlon Brando. When River came into my office, something happened, and there was a connection, and I thought I was the only one who saw that connection. I asked him if he wanted to read for the part, although I thought to myself, it doesn't make any difference to me anymore whether he can read or not. This kid has got to be in this movie. When I cast a movie, I cast for soul, who the person is. And I could see River's soul. There was nothing between me and him. I thought that I was the only one who saw that. Of course, everyone saw it. When I went to Sidney Poitier's house and asked him to be in the movie, and he knew River was in it, he said, well, not only do I like the project, but I have to be in it. There's a 4-foot poster of River in my daughter's room. When we started shooting the movie, wherever we were, at night at 4 in the morning, in the middle of the afternoon, out in the middle of nowhere, people came around. Now, they were usually girl people. They were all about 16 or so, but they would come out of everywhere. I began to see that that thing that I thought I saw alone, everyone saw. He made a connection with his generation. You know, you can be an actor in the movies and you can act your brains out, and it doesn't mean anything unless that chemical thing is there. And with River, it was there. In the scene that you saw, which is a scene about family, with Richard Jenkins and Caroline Kava playing his parents, River talks about the truth. And one of the wonderful things of working with River was that he was a truth machine. When something didn't work, and he couldn't do it, I knew that the thing wasn't right if he couldn't do it, because there was nothing inside of him that could fake. He could not do it. And as some of you know in this room, what happens between actors and a director in making a movie becomes really a love affair. And I loved this kid, this child. He was 15 and became 16 on that movie. And I thought to myself, the performances that are to come, the movies that are to come, the things we are going to see over our lifetime of this boy, this man, will be astounding. And that was not to be. Somebody said that tragedy is the loss of great potential. And it was a tragedy that we won't see those performances. Maybe we all one day will see them. I was doing one scene, I don't know where we were, in the middle of the night somewhere, and it was with Sidney, and I was pushing River. I knew there was more there, and I pushed him, then it was better, and then I pushed him again, and it was good. It was really good. It was the kind of take you'd walk away from, and he went like this to me, just very quietly, and I said, oh, sure. And then he went into that other thing. And after that take, Sidney came over to me and he said, that boy just gave you a gift. And I believe he gave all of us a gift. And I'll miss him, and I love him. Thanks.
Right now, this next couple that I'm going to bring out to be presenters, I'm really excited about. He was in a film, and he was absolutely brilliant, 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 called Naked. And she is my favorite comedian actress. Please welcome Mr. David Thewlis and Sandra Bernhardt.
In architecture, foundations provide the necessary support for buildings, unless, of course, it's 4:30 in the morning and you're running screaming out of your house. In writing, subtext provides the underbelly for a character.
And in acting, supporting roles provide the layers crucial to a film's construct, giving it the edges and shapes to round out its character and story. The nominees for Best Supporting Male are David Chung for The Ballad of Little Joe, Tate Donovan for Inside Monkey's Etalon, Todd Field for Ruby in Paradise, Edward Furlong for American Heart, and Christopher Lloyd for 20 Bucks.
And the winner is Christopher Lloyd. Where is Christopher Lloyd? No, Christopher.
I'm looking for a partner.
What, do you want me to rob this place with you?
Not unless you're prepared to shoot 30 witnesses. I'm more interested in easy places. Gas stations, liquor stores. More profit and a lot less risk. You're not afraid of guns, are you?
You do it.
Christopher Lloyd is an Aries shooting a film, couldn't be here, so we accept the award on his behalf.
Beautiful. The nominees for Best Supporting Female are Laura Flynn Boyle, Equinox. Ale Gua, The Wedding Banquet. Lucinda Jenny, American Heart. Julianne Moore, Shortcuts. And Lili Taylor, Household Saints.
And the winner is Lili Taylor.
No doubt you have plans of your own.
No, not me.
Oh, come on now. It's my business to read human nature. The minute I saw you at that discussion group, I said, now there's a girl who knows what she wants and how to get it.
I wish I did.
Well, everybody shined us on. Lili couldn't be with us today. We accept this award on her behalf. Thank you.
They're all on location. No. But I know if they were here, they would have had a speech prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, it says here, get ready for a Big Mac attack. So please welcome, if you would, Mr. John Torture.
Thank you. In the world of Hollywood, we all too often forget that a film is not just a commercial endeavor, but can be at times an artistic one, filled with visual perceptions and drama. In memory and in the spirit of the great filmmaker John Cassavetes, this award honors maverick filmmakers whose work has significantly extended the possibilities of film as art. This year, the IFP West has chosen Jim Jarmusch as the recipient.
I've seen that guy before. I think, didn't he like terrorize Jodie Foster and then become a construction worker? John Cassavetes, more than anyone else, I think, really understood that a film is never made by one person. And filmmaking is a series of collaborations on every level. I love the way that John Cassavetes and his amazing collaborators made their films. And I'm very proud to accept this award on behalf of all the amazing people that I've had the good luck to work with, some of whom are even here today. So I'm not real good at the whole awards, the idea of awards, but I'm very happy to accept this one. And at first I was kind of hesitant to come to accept the award simply because I thought it felt a little pretentious or presumptuous on my part to get an award with John Cassavetes' name on it. But I remember a quote that I memorized quite a few years ago after seeing a documentary on the making of Love Streams, in which John Cassavetes had said, I think filmmakers should be aware that they don't know anything. And at least on that level, I felt like I was at least qualified as a filmmaker. So again, on behalf of all the people that I've had the great fortune to work with, I thank you for them, for this award. Thank you.
a good time? Even those of you that lost, you're still winners today. I know it's a cliche, but it's true to be here. So give yourselves a round of applause. Before we present the next award for Best Foreign Film, there was a foreign film I saw the other day that really affected me as a filmmaker. And I'd like to share with you a few scenes from this French film by Jean-Claude Bazin, Zotelin-Roussequian. Man is a tragic story. I had written a brilliant screenplay. I took it to the studios. As head of the studio, I love this screenplay. It is brilliant. We only have a few notes. My heart skipped a beat. If you could change the lead woman character into a male, and create a little bit of a love story. And the last thing, we want a happy ending. My heart really skipped a beat. I went off. I cannot do that and have a nice day. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know where to turn. I was in search of the green light. Then I saw a poster. IFP West. Jonathan Wax. I met this man, Jonathan Wax. He introduced me to other filmmakers. A filmmaker who had done a film for $7,000. A filmmaker who had done a film on credit cards. He was so handsome, so strong, so intelligent. He needed a 20-picture deal. I discovered who I was. Small budgets. Small crews. I am an independent filmmaker. Ladies and gentlemen, here to present the Best Foreign Film. He recently appeared in The Getaway, and she was last year's Spirit Award winner for Passion Fish. Please welcome Miss Alfre Woodard and Mr. Michael Madsen.
Thank you. Unlike the studios, whose major deity is the box office, indies devote themselves to creative risk, as so boldly delivered in the exuberant gender frolic Orlando.
To character studies and social observations, as acutely witnessed in the film Naked.
To teaching us to fight for our rights and perhaps discover ourselves, as in the exquisitely told story of Kichu.
To the penetrating passion portrayed through the silent landscape of emotions. And I can't believe I said that. In the piano.
And by nourishing our hearts and souls with the magic realism of Like Water for Chocolate. The nominees for Best Foreign Film are Like Water for Chocolate, Alfonso Araujo. Naked, director Mike Lee. Orlando, director Sally Potter. The Piano, director Jane Campion. The Story of Kichu, director Zhang Yimou.
And the winner is The Piano.
Accepting the award for Jane Campion is producer Jan Chapman.
Thank you. I'm really glad I flew in this morning. Look, it's just great to win an Independent Spirit Award, because if there's one expression that describes the way Jane and I made The Piano, that's it. I don't think we realized at the time how unusual it was to be able to make the screenplay that you wanted to cast the people that you wanted to, and to have final cut. And, you know, we did it. And I find it completely affirming that we did it, and I think it's something for all of us to believe in, that you can make films the way you want to. Of course, there are a few people who helped us. Francis Bouygues from Sibby DeMille, who was a man who in his later years fell in love with the cinema and left us alone at the bottom of the world in New Zealand and Australia to make this film. A cast and crew who stood by us all the way and really believed in Jane's original vision, represented today by this stupendous Miss Holly Hunter. And by our cinematographer, Stuart Dryberg, and also by some independent distributors, Harvey and Bob Weinstein, Miramax Films, who put up with Jane and I wanting to collaborate even during the distribution process. Without guys like that, you can't make films like ours. Thank you very much.
The next presenters. Well, he lights your fire. She told you what's love got to do with it. Please welcome Mr. Val Kilmer and Miss Angela Bassett.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting us. What's rare within the studio system is abundant more among the independents.
The roles in the category of Best Female Lead all share a common theme: the search for self-acceptance in their feminine selves and a continuing struggle to be heard and understood. The nominees for Best Female Lead are Susie Amos, The Ballad of Little Joe; May Chin, The Wedding Banquet; Arian Johnson, Just Another Girl on the IR Team; Ashley Judd, Ruby in Paradise; Emma Thompson, Much Ado About Nothing;
And the winner is Ashley Judd.
Mrs. Chambers, I've done retail before and I work real cheap.
What is your name?
Gissing. Ruby Lee Gissing.
Accepting the award for Ashley Judd is Todd Field.
Excuse me. Unfortunately, Ashley couldn't be here. She's doing a play in New York right now, but I know there's some people that she'd like to thank. First of all, Victor Nunez for his courage and relentless pursuit for the delicious moment. Keith Crawford, our producer, for stretching every penny and not letting any of us ever feel it. And especially Michelle Stern, who's always been a constant support and friend. And finally, to all the members of the IFP, thank you very much.
The nominees for Best Male Lead show men at a variety of crossroads.
Their performances are powerful renderings of ordinary men whose struggles open up us to greater compassion. The nominees for Best Male Lead are Jeff Bridges, American Heart; Vincent, I hope I get this right, D'Onofrio, Household Saints; Mitchell Lichtenstein, The Wedding Banquet; Matthew Modine, Equinox; and Tyrone Turner, Menace to Society.
And the winner is Jeff Bridges.
Now, I know what it's like your first time. They can break your heart, but you gotta remember, you're a good-looking kid. You got my looks. You gotta learn to keep your heart. See? Let them lose theirs, you keep yours. That's the trick of being a heartbreaker.
Thank you. Wow, this was a very special part for me. I had such a good time working on this movie, especially because it was an independent film. You know, we didn't have to compromise on our vision. We made the film that we set out to make, and that was really important to all of us involved. Another reason that this was such a gratifying experience for me, it was a chance to shed some light on a part of our society that doesn't get the light shone on it too often, both politically and in the movies. And that's the part of us that live below the poverty line. There's 36 million of us that are living below the poverty line now. 15 million of us are kids. That's about 1 in 5 of our children. So it was great to make a film like this one for that reason. I'd especially like to thank Martin Bell for doing such a brilliant job in directing this film. He had such an inclusive spirit, and the tone that he set was just terrific to work with. And Peter Silverman for writing such a brilliant screenplay. Jim Bagdonis for making it look so right, just hitting the right tone on that, Jim, wherever you are, man. It was beautiful. My partners, Eddie Furlong and Cinda Jenny, who did such a great job. Thank you, guys. I'd like to give a special thanks to Eddie Bunker, who was my technical advisor on the movie. I don't know if he's here tonight, but he was, God, so inspirational. He always kept us on track to keep it authentic, and I thank him for that. Let me get my card out here because I'm gonna forget somebody. Ann Dubonnet, yeah. Ann, World Films. She was right there from the beginning to the end, and you know, she inspired us so much and had such faith in us, and thanks for that, Ann. Kerry Brokaw, I'd like to thank him, and Avenue Pictures. Neil Koningsberg and Roz Heller, my co-producers. Rona Wallace with Live Entertainment. Bob Burney and Jonathan Dana at Triton Pictures. I especially like to thank Mary Ellen Mark, who was a producer on the film, but she also sourced the project. She, about 15 years ago, she did a layout for Life magazine about kids living on the street in Seattle, and
that's what this film was all about, and it came from really from Mary Ellen, so thank you for that, Mary Ellen. And Rick Nacita and Jonathan Weiskell, I'd like to thank them. And my wife and my kids for supporting me during this adventure. And my mother and my father and my brother Bo, who taught me how to act, how to do it. And the man upstairs, glory be to God. And you folks at IFP, thank you very much. This really means a lot to me. Thank you. That's great.
Wasn't too far away, was it?
Is that a bomb, Paddy?
It's getting more like home.
Actor and director, Mr. Sean Penn.
I was glad to hear that the guy who made that film the clip was from is going back to Miramax, so he's got a studio chief who looks at him with two eyes at the same time. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I like to make things easy on myself, so I tend to break films and filmmakers down into two categories. Those who assume that an audience has no imagination or dreams of their own and therefore contrive dreams and theories of imagination for them. And those who find a structure in which to share their dreams, and while the particulars may be different, the soul's the same, and gives us a sense we're not alone. I've known the keynote speaker for a while, but the anecdote that comes to mind is when he started quoting Hamlet, 4 o'clock in the morning, Shelbourne Hotel in Dublin, after we'd had enough pints of Guinness, where if you rearrange those monitors there a little bit, that's where I was. Well, he didn't just quote Hamlet, he did the whole fucking play. A great drinker and a touched sharer, Jim Sheridan.
I feel like I'm in Las Vegas or something. When I was on the film, John Baker, who played the IRA man, who was a blues-playing harmonica player, came up to me on the first day and he said, feel my heart. That's what mine's going like now, boom, boom, boom. And he said, I'm so nervous. Well, I'm like that. Within a week, he was saying, Jim, could I say it this way? And then about a week later, he was saying, could you get that actor to say it like this? But I was going to come up here and prepare a speech and all that, and I decided I'd kind of improvise, because a lot of the times on the film I might do that, just throw away the script. And I thought I'd throw myself to the lions with the hope that you just listen. And Terry George has promised me, he's sitting down there, who wrote this in the name of the Father with me, that he'd jump up and hey, you there, Terry? Wave. Well, Terry has promised me that if I'm going on too long, he's going to stand on the chair and shout, you're on too long. I thought I'd tell you, basically, I decided to pitch the next film I'm going to make to the room and see if anybody likes it. Okay, here's how it starts. I'm in Ireland running a theatre, and we put on a gay sweatshop play, and the reviews say, worse than necrophilia. They take away our grants, and I say, fuck it, I'm out of here. So I say to Frand, my wife, and the two kids, come on, let's go. We go to the States. But I had a friend in Toronto who ran a theatre, so I went there and for a little bit, and then on Patrick's Day I decided to come down to America to the Irish Arts Centre. And we drove down, and I kept saying to Fran, you know, keep going faster, because we wanted to get there, you know, early. The kids were fed up driving. And we were arrested about midnight and taken to court. And the judge was pretty pissed off because he was woken by the two policemen. And he fined us $40. So we reached in our pocket, and we 26 Canadian and 13 American. And he said, you have to have 40, and we didn't have it genuinely. So one of the policemen put down 4 quarters. And the judge asked me if I put it down. I said, no. So he said, the policeman said, yes, he did. I saw him. So I said, well, And I was afraid to say I did because I thought I might get arrested for perjury. So the judge then said, well, I need a witness. And the other policeman said, well, I saw him. So the judge took the quarter and let us go. At which point I said to the two cops, you know, how do we pay the tolls? And they gave us $10. And we drove on to New York. Okay, so cut to 8-9 years later, and I'm in a place getting a tuxedo for the Oscars, and Noel Pearson's with me, and he says, you better write a speech. And I said, no, it'd be bad luck if I wrote a speech. So we're walking back along Santa Monica Boulevard, and we're going past Rage, and I hear, oh my God, Jim. So I look round, and there's this guy called Romero, and he's a 6'4" black guy. And he grabs my suit and he goes, you made it, look at the fucking label. And he's looking at the label of my suit, and then he opens his own suit and says, look it, I made it too. And what it turns out is that he lived in the same house as us in New York, and he was a painter, and he used to put his paintings on the subway. He was crazy, you know, he'd take a photograph of them and put them on the subway. And Bob Dylan was walking along, and he saw this painting, and he said, get me that for the cover of my album. So 6 months later, they're going to do the cover of the album, and they've all the artwork, and they don't have this painting. So Dylan says, find it. And they do a long search, and they find Romero, and they ring him, and they say, hi, Bob Dylan wants you to do the cover of his new album. And he says, go fuck yourself, and hangs up. And eventually they rang him back, and he did the cover of Oh Mercy. And he said to me, you know, that house was blessed we lived in. It was blessed. You made it. I made it. Joey jumped off the back roof. Sandra's an opera singer. Billy died of AIDS. And everybody had either died or was quite successful. Now, I spent 7 years then in New York basically trying to do one thing, which was to get a review from the New York Times. And we put on 6 shows a year for 7 years, and we didn't get any reviews. Except the one show we moved, which, you know, we raised $100,000 to move it. We had 10 good reviews, and the 11th was the New York Times. And basically after like years and years of doing this, I said, look, you can't just be dependent on one organization, or I don't even know if it's their fault that they have a monopoly over theater, but I decided to write a script, a film script, and I just started on my left foot, and it was as simple as that. And I think that's, I mean, it's an important thing to say, that if you get a monopoly in any area, whether it's studios, money, whatever, and even it's dangerous to have films that overrun Europe, because in the end, monopolies don't work. And I think it's very important that independent filmmakers get the money wherever they can. It's easier in Europe in many ways. And, when we did My Left Foot, the amazing thing was we just had no interference. We raised the money from TV. About 6 months before I came back to do it, my kid, I had these shoes, and they had holes in them, and I didn't notice so much, and then it snowed once, and I'm back at home, and I was wringing my socks out, and I was really annoyed. And my kid, Kirsten, was watching me, and I remember, because for Christmas she bought me a pair of galoshes. But these galoshes used to suck in the snow because they were a size too big. So that was my last memory of just going back and doing the film. And then it opened in Ireland and England, and it was a kind of minor hit. And Harvey Weinstein got it, and he really believed it. And I remember the day he met me with Eve, and he said, I love this film. My wife loves the film. My brother loves the film. We're going to push it. And then I was on the set doing The Field. Lucky enough, we went straight into that. And I saw Pauline Kael's review, and, things just totally changed. My life changed. And I actually would go into stores then, and buy like a jacket. And for the first time, I actually could look at the material, whether it's like linen or whatever. Because before that, you just look at price tags. That's what everybody out there does. So I realized that vision, or whatever you call it, is an internal change. And that's what we have to do to the audience, is give them the chance to see in that way. Okay, I'll give you one other story. I don't know what it means. See this spirit ward here? Imagine that's a church where I was a kid, right? So the church was here. The top of the W is the priest's house. The top of this door is the school I went to. And they're the relative heights, believe me. And this is my own house, which is the lodging house. And this mic here is the TV aerial my father's putting up. And him and my uncle are working on the TV. And this is a day in which, when I look out there, it's snowing. And when I look at my feet, it's not. And I'll try and explain why that happens. I won't take you long. My father's trying to turn the aerial towards England to find out where England is. And he's arguing with my uncle, who's saying England's over there. My father's saying, no, it's over here. My father's saying, doesn't the Liffey flow east? That's where England is, east. My uncle's saying, the Liffey goes in a bloody circle like that out to sea. So they're twisting and turning this aerial, and the other uncle's on a ladder, and he's looking at the television, and he just keeps saying, it's snow, snow, snow. All you have is snow. So eventually my Uncle Jim said to my father, the reason you can't get reception is the church is blocking the signal. And this is actually a true story. The church was blocking the signal. So the signal from England used to hit the church, bounce out, and reform about 5 houses down here, where the reception was quite good. But in our house, the reception was bad, and it was like, you'd get the horizontal hold would go and the vertical hold, and it would become snowy, and you could barely see the picture. And yet it was still television. So we used to have to listen to the picture, if you know what I mean. So at that point, Irish television came in over here, bypassed the church, and Ireland changed. And I think in many ways it was the result of television and changes like that, and that's how powerful it is. But it's also dangerous in that it does bypass the church or whatever. It knocks down the Berlin Wall. It causes, and film is part of that. And the images that we have in the world that come from here, and here you do create the way people see the world. And I think it's very important, and it's very important that the huge high-rise buildings with all the money don't just put their message out that the money's all important. The money's not all important. It's the spirit of the thing that's important. Okay, thank you.
Have you guys been having a good time? And again, let's give a round of applause again for all the nominees, all the nominees. when he was talking a few minutes ago, everything that he was saying is so real in terms of movies and images. And when I think about the power of movies, walking into a movie theater and it can change the way you feel, make you feel different, and the fact that movies are around forever, it's like a piece of history. You know what I mean? Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. But that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged, unchanged. The young become the old.
Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. I used to be a young man. Yeah, I was a filmmaker. Yeah, I made movies. I was an independent filmmaker. Yeah, we were the real voice of Hollywood. Yeah, no, we really were. I mean, you know, short ends, little locations, no crew. We made the real movies. Yeah, I was I was a filmmaker, and I used to be a comedian too. Tell you a joke. Okay, I'll tell you a joke. What does a man with a 12-inch penis have for breakfast? You don't know. I'll tell you. This morning I had toast, juice, and eggs. I'll tell you another one. Blind man said to his wife, if you want to make love to me, just yank on my thing one time for yes. If you don't want to make love to me, yank on my thing 50 times for no. Yeah, I used to be a comedian. Yeah, this is in the 90s. Yeah, I did a film on credit cards a long time ago. Yeah. And then I was in World War III. Yeah, I was in World War III. They dropped that bomb. Now everybody's gray. No black, no white, no red, no yellow, just gray. Light gray and dark gray. Don't nothing change. People still prejudice. Just the other day, this light gray man called me a grigger. I said, don't call me no damn grigger. I got on the phone, I called the NAAGP. Yeah, but I was proud. Yeah, I remember the day they got the cure to AIDS. Remember that? Yeah, I remember that day. They found the cure. But that ain't nothing. I'd hate to catch that nuclear disease I got out there now. Make all that noise. Yeah. But one day it's going to change. That's why I always felt movies was the way. It was like that white boy wrote in the song. You know, the white boy, the one that got killed, he was in that insect group. Lemon, Lyman, Lennon, John Lennon. You might say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you'll come and join us, and the world will be as one.
Thank you. These next presenters, he will be seen in the new movie No Escape for Savoy Pictures and Karina for New Line Cinema. She was the winner of the 1993 National Society of Film Critics Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Shortcuts. Please welcome Mr. Ray Liotta and Miss Madeline Stowe.
Directors use their life experiences to connect us to the ordinary physical world through the expression of film.
A director's life experiences, then, are a way of seeing and then seeing again the connection between ourselves and the world we live in. The nominees for Best Director are Robert Altman, Shortcuts. Ang Lee, The Wedding Banquet. Victor Nunez, Ruby in Paradise. Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi. And John Turturro, Mac.
And the winner is Robert Altman.
Well, it was real quick. It's too quick for me. Plus, he won't do well. Do you? I used to before we got married. I would if he would stop fooling around. I kind of like it. What about you?
Robert Altman is shooting in France. We accept this award on his behalf. Thank you.
All right. This next presenter, she embodies the beliefs of the independents. Unafraid to follow her heart, fearless of challenges, capable of diverse talents. Please welcome Miss Holly Hunter.
Hi, good afternoon. It's nice to be here. The nominees for Best Feature are Equinox, executive producers Nicholas Stiliadis, Sid Capp, Sandy Stern, producer David Blocker. Much Ado About Nothing, producers Stephen Evans, David Parfit, Kenneth Branagh. Ruby in Paradise, producers Sam Gowan and Keith Crawford. And Shortcuts, executive producer Scott Bushnell, producer Carrie Brokaw. And The Wedding Banquet, executive producer Jiang Fang Chi, producers James Shamus, Ted Hope, and Ang Lee. And the winner is Shortcuts.
Well, what did you tell you?
There's what else? Maybe I've looked everywhere for you. I was in the trailer last night. You weren't there. Your car was there, but you weren't there.
Honey, where you been sleeping? Look at you.
I slept outside. I didn't want to sleep in our bed.
Yikes. Thanks. This was a very difficult film to make. Not that every other film that's been talked about today isn't. In fact, they all are. This was 10 stories, 22 actors, a child's death, an earthquake, alcoholism, extramarital sex, trout fishing, a clown, phone sex, a dead body, malathion, 3 hours, and an ending that Griffin Mill would have never approved. We had to do it. I want to acknowledge all the actors that made it possible, that brought an extraordinary truth to every moment, the crew, Frank Barhydt and Bob Altman for creating a phenomenal script, Raymond Carver, Tess Gallagher, Scott Bushnell, and most of all, I want to thank Bob Altman, the man who made it all possible, and the man who made it really fun. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you again to the sponsors, Bravo, Kodak, Panavision, and the sponsor of the Cocktail Hour Entertainment Weekly. Thank you very much for coming out. See you next year. Continue to support IFP West. Thank you.